for joining me on the news. The headline says Ukraine intercepts 30 missiles and drones. Russian drones aim Odessa grain stores. Republicans divided over Trump's indictment. Heaviest rains in China kill at least 20, and Typhoon Kun hits Japan's Okinawa. On Russia-Ukraine war, a senior military official said Ukrainian air defenses shot down 30 missiles and drones around Kyiv overnight into Friday. The head of Kyiv's military administration, Siri Popko, said in a Telegram post Friday that this was the sixth wave of attacks on the Ukrainian capital in the past 6 days. The freshest raid used both ballistic missiles and drones, he said. Popko lauded Ukraine's air defense system for resisting what he believed were air-to-surface missiles and Iran-made Shahed attack drones. No information is yet available on damage or casualties, Popko said. The city's mayor reported explosions taking place in the city earlier Friday, with air raid alerts issued across the country. Air raid sirens rang out across Ukraine early Friday as Kyiv's mayor reported explosions in the capital. Meanwhile, several Russian regions, including Kursk and Belgorod, are facing their own raids, which Russian officials have blamed on Ukraine, though Kyiv denies direct involvement. Still on Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine's defense ministry said a Russian drone strikers hit Ukrainian port facilities at Izmail on the river Danube, a short distance from NATO member state Romania. An elevator used for loading grain was destroyed in the overnight attack. Russia started aiming Ukraine's ports after abandoning a United Nations deal that allowed both countries to export grain safely across the Black Sea. A large fire raged from the port area of Izmail early on Wednesday. Footages from the Romanian side of the Danube, roughly 3 kilometers, 1.9 miles away, showed the extent of the fire. Ukraine's Air Force said during the night that Russian drones were heading for the Danube River, where Ukraine has two ports, Izmail and Reni. Ukraine's military command in the south said air defenses had been operating for almost 3 hours. Odessa regional leader Oleg Kipa said emergency services were working on the site of the newest Russian attack and there were no reports of any casualties. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that unfortunately there has been damage, and the regional chief posted several images on social media showing that numerous structures had been hit. Last week, Russian drones also attacked grain warehouses in Reni, further up the river Danube and also next to Romanian territory. Russia had already raided the big Black Sea ports of Odessa and Kornomorsk, where authorities said 60,000 tons of grains were destroyed. It pulled out of the grain deal in July. Russia threatened to target any vessels heading towards Ukraine's Black Sea ports, essentially imposing a naval blockade. Ships have continued to sail across the Black Sea to Ukraine's ports on the Danube, which has grown in importance as an alternative. Ukraine is one of the world's major exporters of wheat and corn, and the bulk of the shipments have been moving from the country's Black Sea ports. If the Black Sea is close to shipping, then the Danube becomes pivotal for Ukraine's exports. Wheat prices surged on world markets immediately after the Russian withdrawal from the grain deal. Russia has so far not publicly commented on the reported attacks. On politics, ex-United States President Donald Trump's indictment for allegedly trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election has promoted a variety of reactions from Republicans, including his rivals for the GOP presidential nomination in 2024. While several prominent Republicans have defended Trump, many others, including most notably former Vice President Mike Pence, have criticized the former president. McCarthy cast the indictment as a political attempt to divert attention away from investigations into the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Everyone in America could see what's going to come next. DOJ's attempt to distract from the news and attack the front-runner for the Republican nomination, President Trump, McCarthy said in a statement on social media. House Republicans will continue to uncover the truth about Biden, Inc. and the two-tiered system of justice. Pence, who is running for the nomination, has accused Trump of pressuring him to help overturn the results of the 2020 election, said the indictment showed the former president's unfitness for office. Today's indictment serves as an important reminder. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States, Pence said in a statement, adding that Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence and he will have more to say after reviewing the indictment. Our country is more important than one man, Pence added. Our Constitution is more important than any one man's career. Now on weather and climate, China's capital region has been hit by the heaviest rain since records started 140 years ago, as flooding left at least 20 people dead and 27 others missing. Authorities recorded 744.8 millimeters, 29.3 inches of rainfall, the highest since 1891, between Saturday and Wednesday morning at a reservoir on the outskirts of Beijing, the city's meteorological service said on Wednesday. The amount of rainfall recorded in 40 hours was close to the average rainfall for the whole month of July. Tropical storm Doksuri has discarded heavy rains in areas in and around the capital while moving northward since hitting the southern Fujian province last week. On Wednesday, authorities dispatched thousands of emergency personnel to Zhou, a city about 60 kilometers, 37 miles southwest of Beijing, as the remnants of the typhoon continued to batter areas around the capital. According to report, Zhou, which is at the confluence of many rivers, had been hit especially hard as floodwaters had migrated downstream from elsewhere. Torrential rain around Beijing has killed at least 20 people and left 27 missing, according to reports, while closely 1 million people have been evacuated in the capital and neighboring Hebei province. Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered local governments to go all out to rescue survivors and reduce loss of life and property damage. On Wednesday, there appeared to be some respite from flooding in the capital as local authorities lifted a red alert for the public. Beijing officials lowered the warning level as water flow in major rivers has gone below the warning mark, reports said. China suffered its deadliest floods in modern times in the summer of 1998, when flooding along the banks of the Yangtze River and other waterways in the northeast killed more than 4,000 people and left an estimated 14 million people homeless. Over 300 people died in 2021 when floods struck the city of Zhengzhou and the surrounding province of Henan. Still on weather and climate in southern Japan, powerful winds and lashing rain from an approaching typhoon had killed at least one person and knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of people. The slow-moving typhoon Kanun, which was closing in on Japan's southwestern islands on Wednesday, also forced the cancellation of hundreds of flights to the popular tourist destination of Okinawa and other islands, stranding thousands of tourists. A 90-year-old man died after getting crushed under a collapsed garage. According to reports, said at least 11 others were wounded, Japan's Fire and Disaster Management Agency had said. The storm, described as very strong by the Japan Meteorological Agency JMA, brought maximum sustained winds of 200 kilometers per hour, while some areas on Okinawa logged more than 250 millimeters, 9.84 inches of rain in the past 24 hours. The JMA warned of flooding and landslide in some parts, and authorities issued an evacuation order across Okinawa and in parts of neighboring Kokushima Prefecture, urging over 690,000 residents to move to safety. Footage shows strong winds flipping cars over and impacting loads as rain battered empty streets in Okinawa. Local utility Okinawa Electric Power said closely 210,000 households, or 34% of all houses covered, were experiencing power outages as of 1 p.m. Japan time, according to its website. In Okinawa's capital city, Naha, the airport was completely closed for a second day on Wednesday. A total of 951 flights were cancelled on Tuesday and Wednesday, while 35 ferry lines suspended operations, Japan's transport ministry said. Japan Airlines said it may ground more flights to and from airports in Okinawa on Thursday and Friday as well. Typhoon Kanun comes just days after the region was hit by Typhoon Doksuri, which slammed northern China in one of the worst storms in over a decade and damaged rice production in the Philippines. Moving now to Africa, 2 dead, 5 injured in Senegal bus bomb attack. On Tuesday, 2 people were killed and 5 wounded when an attacker hurled a petrol bomb on a bus in Dakar, the Interior Minister said. Bus driver Abdoulaye Diop, who was hurt in the attack, said according to reports that a group of hooded youths boarded the bus and insulted him while one lit the bomb and threw it. The bus was traveling from the suburbs to the center of Dakar when it was blocked by a group of people. Interior Minister Antonio Felix Abdoulaye Diom said the attackers had also robbed the passengers of their money and mobile phones. 2 people were killed and 5 extremely wounded, Diop said. Recurrent arrest recurrent unrest during leading political opponent Osman Sonko's standoff with the authorities since 2021 has seen riots, looting, and on several occasions attacks on public transport. According to company manager Mbaye Amar, demonstrators or bandits were behind the petrol bombing. But Diom described it as a terrorist attack and declined to link it to protest grip in Senegal after Sonko was indicted on a fresh barrage of charges and his party dissolved, blighting his presidential plans. And still on the news, Niger Prime Minister seeks international support. Mohamedou, Niger Prime Minister, who has been stuck outside the country since last week's coup, appealed to the international community on Tuesday to help his country restore democracy. Speaking in Paris, Mohamedou said that Niger should be considered crucial for consolidation democracy in West Africa and protecting countries to the south against the spread of terrorism. The West African regional bloc known as ECOWAS announced travel and economic sanctions against Niger on Sunday and said it could use force if the coup leaders refused to reinstate Niger's democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum within 1 week. Mohamedou said the sanctions will be a catastrophe for Niger. On Tuesday, France, Italy, and Spain announced evacuations from Niger for their citizens and other European nationals. Mohamedou's government was one of the West's last democratic partners against West African extremists. Both the United States and France have sent troops and hundreds of millions of dollars of military and humanitarian aid in recent years to Niger. The present instability in the country ultimately could encourage the further development of insecurity linked to jihadis, Mohamedou warned. Still, the Prime Minister said he wants to remain optimistic about the possibility for Niger to regain democracy and avoid an ECOWAS military intervention. He said he remains in touch with Bazoum and that the president is certainly a hostage, but also that he is in good spirits and ready to face the situation. Mohamedou said he believed the coup leaders will heed the ECOWAS call to restore Bazoum rather than face the threat of military intervention because they are patriots. On a sad one, ex-Ivorian leader Bedi dies at 89. Ivory Coast nationalist ex-president Henry Konan Bedi, who had not excluded the possibility of a return to power even in his latter days, has died aged 89, his party had said. In a statement, the Ivory Coast Democratic Party African Democratic Rally PDCI RDA said it's deeply saddened to announce the sudden death of Bedi in hospital in Abidjan on Tuesday. A career politician born in 1934 to a family of cocoa planters, Bedi was the chosen successor to Ivory Coast's founding father Felix Houphouët-Boigny, who ruled over the West African nation from independence from France in 1960 until his death in 1993, aged 89. He served as president from 1993 until 1999 when he was overthrown by the military in the country's first ever coup. Dubbed the Sphinx of Dokro after his native town economy with words, Bedi demonstrated a skill for political survival. He tried unsuccessfully to return as president in 2000, 2010 and 2020. Bedi, whose rivalry with Ouattara dates back 3 decades, had not ruled out running in the country's next presidential election in 2025. His main influence on national politics had been to promote Ivorites, Ivorianness, the notion of a national identity and national economy in a country with dozens of ethnic groups. The nationalist policy discriminated against immigrants in favor of people with 2 Ivorian parents, affecting countless workers on the country's cocoa plantations. Bedi and other political leaders had tried to use the policy to stop Ouattara, who was held to have a father from neighboring Burkina Faso, from running for president in 1995. There will be more stories right after this moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now we zoom on Nigeria and we begin with NLC TUC adamant commences protests already. All is ready as today commencement of a planned nationwide protest by the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress TUC to compel the federal government to implement measures to cushion the hardship falls on Nigerians by the removal of petrol subsidy. President of NLC Joe Ajero, who revealed this last night in Abuja, said reports flying around that the Congress had halted the mass action where the handiwork of mischief makers working against the interests of Nigerians. TUC also directed all the state councils in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory FCT Abuja to mobilize for the protest today. But Acting Inspector General of Police IGP Kayode Egbetokun yesterday cautioned that the police will not let any violent protests or acts that could threaten the peace and well-being of the nation. The warning came on a day over 100 members of the Joint Action Front JAF took to the streets in Kano to protest against the increase in petrol pump price, electricity tariff, and education tuition fees. Mobilization for the nationwide protest by NLC followed the Congress's rejection of the policy measures unveiled by President Bola Tinubu in his national broadcast on Monday. Ajero said the meeting with the representatives of the federal government did not change anything. He directed that the state councils of the Congress to mobilize for the mass action. He said in a statement yesterday, and I quote, "We have neither reconsidered nor suspended the nationwide mass protest. We want to inform all Nigerians that we have just risen from a meeting with the federal government where we sought to get them to listen to the demands of the people and workers of Nigeria." The outcome of this meeting earlier today has, however, not changed anything or the course which we have set for ourselves tomorrow as custodians of the interests and desires of Nigerian workers and people. Nigerians are advised to ignore the work of fifth columnists who are working hard against the wishes of the people. We urge everyone to gather in our respective states and wherever we may be across the nation to give vent to this collective resolve. Once again, the nationwide mass protest will begin tomorrow. NLC listed its demands at immediate implementation of resolutions reached with the Congress, jointly signed with the government and TUC, as well as immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies for the government, such as hiking school fees of tertiary institutions and fuel price. Other demands include fixing of local refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna, release of 8 months withheld salaries of university lecturers and workers, appropriate recognition and support to the Presidential Steering Committee and the work of its subcommittees, and cessation of inhumane actions and policies of government. Apart from failing to address the workers' demand for a wage award to cushion hardship brought by the abrupt fuel subsidy removal, NLC said the president's speech did not name those behind the government's allegation of fuel subsidy scam, and it was silent on the issue of repair of the refineries. Earlier yesterday, Head of Information and Publicity at NLC, Mr. Benson Upa, said clear directives had been given to all the branches of the Congress to ensure full mobilization of workers for the protest. As at yesterday, all the affiliates of NLC, including the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and other university workers, had indicated their readiness to join the protest as directed by the Labour Center. ASU President Professor Emmanuel Osodeke was quoted as saying yesterday that the union would join the protest. NLC rejected the policy measures unveiled by Tinubu in his national broadcast, saying they fall short of expectations of Nigerian workers. It said until workers saw real commitment by government to do the needful to improve the lot of Nigerians and ameliorate the sufferings workers and ordinary Nigerians were going through, the union will continue with the struggle. And finally on the news, Tinubu to send second ministerial list today. Today, President Bola Tinubu will send a fresh batch of ministerial nominees to the Senate for screening, according to reports. According to a very reliable source in the Senate, the names will either come on Tuesday night or very early on Wednesday morning. The source exclusively said the names of the new batch of ministerial nominees will be read at the plenary today. The lawmaker added that the screening of the 28 nominees will be concluded today so that the next batch can be screened thereafter. By Wednesday, according to him, the new set of nominees will be unveiled so that by Monday we will be through with their screening. We want to conclude with the screening before we go on our recess. We wouldn't want a situation where we will go on recess and we will now start calling lawmakers to come back for screening, he said. On Monday, the Senate had screened 14 out of the 28 ministerial nominees earlier submitted by the president. On Tuesday, 9 out of the remaining 14 were screened. Those screened on Tuesday were Senator David Umahi of Ebonyi, Olawole Edun, Ogun State, Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, Ahmed Dengiwa, Katsina State, Uche Naji, Enugu State, Stella Oketete, Delta State, Adebayo Adelabu, Oyo State, Okwerikpa Eko, Cross River State, and Hanatu Musua of Katsina State. To refresh our memories, Ukraine intercepts 30 missiles and drones. Russian drones aim Odessa grain stores. Republicans divided over Trump's indictment. Heaviest rains in China kill at least 20, and Typhoon Kanun hits Japan's Okinawa. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.